Every city has its rulers, men who control the flow of money, power, and blood through its veins like a heartbeat. For 15 years I was that heartbeat. Dominic, the architect Castellano, the undisputed king of the South District. But when two kings fight for the same throne, the streets don't just change hands. They drown in blood. This is the story of the war that split my city in two. The war that turned brothers into enemies, neighborhoods into battlefields, and forced every soul in this city to choose a side. Because neutrality, that died the moment Luca Moretti decided he wasn't satisfied with Chicago. He came back, not crawling, not begging. He came back as a conqueror. And what followed was 6 months of hell that this city will never forget. 3 months. That's how long the peace lasted after Luca left for Chicago. 3 months of silence that felt like holding my breath underwater. I knew it wouldn't last. Men like Luca don't just disappear. They regroup. They plan. They wait for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came on a Tuesday in January. I was at Salvator's, going over the monthly numbers with Bruno when my phone rang. It was Marco, my nephew, and his voice was tight with something I rarely heard from him. Fear. "Uncle Dom, you need to see this, now." "See what?" "Just get to the docks, West Pier, and bring your guys." 20 minutes later, I was standing on the waterfront watching my entire shipping operation go up in flames. Not one warehouse. All three, simultaneously, professionally executed, military precision. The fire department was already there, but they weren't even trying to save the buildings, just containing the spread. Smart, because by the time they arrived, there was nothing left to save. Bruno stood beside me, his face illuminated by the orange glow. "This is Luca." "I know. He's back." "I know that too." What I didn't know yet was the scope, the audacity, the sheer fucking ambition of what Luca had planned. Over the next 72 hours, I found out. Luca hadn't just come back to Chicago. He'd built an empire there in 3 months, smaller than mine, sure, but focused, efficient, modern, everything he'd promised he could do when he challenged me the first time. And he'd brought that empire back to my city. Not to compete, to conquer. The docks were just the opening move. By the end of that week, Luca had established operations in the North District, territory I'd never fully controlled but had respected boundaries with for years. He'd made deals with suppliers I'd been working with for a decade, offering better rates, faster turnaround, fewer questions. He was playing the game I'd taught him, but he'd added his own ruthless efficiency to it. The street soldier was no longer a soldier. He was a boss in his own right. He gathered men, money, and territory with the speed of a wildfire. Young guys from the neighborhoods, soldiers who'd grown tired of waiting for promotions in my organization, even some of my own guys who saw opportunity in chaos. Within 2 weeks, Luca controlled more territory than some families controlled in years. And soon, half the city whispered his name with the same mix of fear and respect they'd once reserved for me. The balance of power was broken. The first betrayal came from someone I never expected. Tommy 2 times Rizzo, one of my oldest soldiers, a guy I'd known since we were running numbers in high school, a guy who'd been at my wedding, who'd held my daughter when she was born, who I'd trusted with my life 100 times over. He came to my office on a Thursday morning. I could tell something was wrong from the way he walked. Head down, hands fidgeting, couldn't meet my eyes. "Boss, I need to talk to you about something." I gestured to the chair. "Sit, talk." Tommy sat down, took a deep breath. "I'm out." 2 words, simple, devastating. Out of what exactly? The family, the business, all of it. He finally looked at me and I saw guilt written all over his face. "I'm going with Luca." The room went very quiet. Bruno, who'd been standing by the door, took a step forward. His hand drifted toward his waist where I knew he kept a .38. I held up my hand, stopping him. "Why?" I asked Tommy, not angry, just tired. "After everything we've been through, after everything I've done for you, why?" Tommy's voice cracked. "Because I got kids, Dom. 3 kids who need college money, weddings, futures. Luca's offering me double what you pay, triple my territory. A real seat at the table, not just scraps." "You had a seat at my table," I said quietly. "No, I had a chair in the corner, a place to sit while you and the capos made all the decisions." Tommy stood up, gaining confidence. "Luca's different, he listens. He values guys like me. With him, I'm not just a soldier, I'm a partner." "You're a traitor," Bruno spat. Tommy flinched but didn't back down. "Call it what you want. I'm thinking about my family, my future, and right now that future's with Luca." I wanted to kill him right there, put a bullet in his head and send his body back to Luca wrapped in a message. This is what happens to traitors. But I didn't. Because killing Tommy wouldn't stop what was happening. It would just make more men afraid. And fear breeds more betrayal. "Get out," I said. "And Tommy, don't ever let me see you again. Because next time Bruno won't need my permission." Tommy left. The door closed behind him, and I sat there staring at my desk, feeling the foundation of my empire starting to crack. He wasn't the last. Over the next month I lost 15 guys, not all at once, slow bleeding, one here, 2 there. Each defection announced with carefully worded phone calls or cowardly notes left in drop locations. Men I raised, men I trusted, men who'd sworn loyalty on their children's lives. Some went for money, exactly like Tommy. Luca was paying more, offering bigger cuts, making promises I couldn't match without bankrupting my own operations. Some went for fear. Luca had made it clear that crossing him meant consequences. Guys who stayed loyal to me found their businesses vandalized, their families threatened, their lives made miserable until they either switched sides or left the city entirely. But some, and these were the ones that hurt most, went because they believed in his vision of a new order. Luca was young, charismatic, modern. He talked about expansion, innovation, taking the family business into the 21st century. He promised a future where loyalty was rewarded not just with protection but with opportunity. I was the old guard, the traditional boss, the man who'd built an empire on the old ways, respect through fear, loyalty through blood, power through violence. To the young guys, I was a dinosaur, and Luca was the meteor that would wipe me out. Every defection was a knife in my back, and every knife made him stronger while making me weaker. Bruno tried to reassure me, "Boss, we still got the core guys, the loyal ones, the ones who understand what this life really means." "The core guys," I repeated. "You mean the old guys, the ones who'll be dead or in prison in 5 years. That's not a future, Bruno. That's a funeral waiting to happen." He didn't have an answer for that, because he knew I was right. The city was changing, and men like us, we were being left behind. It started with corners. Small-time spots where my guys collected protection money from shops and restaurants. Suddenly, Luca's soldiers would show up, tell the owners they didn't have to pay me anymore, that there was new management, better management. Most of the owners were too scared to refuse. They'd nod, hand over the cash to Luca's guys, and hope neither of us killed them for playing both sides. I sent messages, broke a few heads, made examples, but for every corner I reclaimed, Luca took 2 more. Then it escalated to blocks. Entire streets that had been Castellano territory for decades suddenly had Morty crews standing on them, selling drugs, running numbers, doing everything we'd been doing, but openly, brazenly, daring me to do something about it. I did. We hit one of their drug houses in the North District, sent 10 guys in masks, smashed the place, took everything, product, cash, weapons, left 3 of Luca's soldiers unconscious on the floor with broken bones and a message spray-painted on the wall, "Castellano territory." Luca responded by burning down two of my legitimate businesses, a dry cleaner and a deli that I'd owned for years, not at night when they were empty, during business hours. Thank God no one died, but the message was clear: nothing was sacred, not civilians, not innocent businesses, nothing. Then it became entire districts. The South District was mine, the North was contested, but the East District, that had always been neutral ground, run by a coalition of smaller families, independent operators who paid tribute to everyone and fought with no one. Luca made them an offer they couldn't refuse: protection from me, better rates, expansion opportunities. All they had to do was declare loyalty to him. Half of them took the deal. Just like that, Luca controlled a third of the city, not through birthright or years of building, through aggressive expansion and ruthless efficiency. My businesses burned. My shipments got hijacked on the highway, trucks full of merchandise just disappearing into thin air, only to resurface weeks later being sold by Luca's distributors. My allies got threatened. Associates I'd worked with for years suddenly got visits from Morty soldiers, friendly visits at first. "Mr. Castellano's having some trouble. Maybe it's time to reconsider your partnerships." When friendly didn't work, they got less friendly. Vandalism, arson, in one case a kidnapping. They grabbed the teenage son of one of my suppliers, held him for 6 hours, then released him unharmed with a note: "Next time we keep him." The supplier switched sides the next day. The city wasn't just divided, it was bleeding. Every street corner was a potential flashpoint. Every business transaction a gamble. You never knew if the guy you were meeting with was loyal, bought, or wearing a wire for Luca. Trust evaporated. Paranoia became survival instinct. And the people, the normal civilians who just wanted to live their lives, were forced to choose. Some neighborhoods flew Castellano colors, others flew Morty. And the ones in between, they kept their heads down and prayed the war wouldn't reach their doorstep. But war has a way of spreading, like cancer, like fire. It consumed everything. We met face to face exactly once during those 6 months of hell. Not by choice, not by design, but because sometimes in war the universe forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. It happened at a warehouse in the industrial district, neutral territory, a location that belonged to the port authority, not to either of us. I was there to meet with a shipping contractor who'd been playing both sides, trying to broker peace, he claimed, trying to keep his own operations alive, more likely. I brought Bruno and 4 soldiers. Light security because this was supposed to be a business meeting, not a battle. When we walked into that warehouse, I knew immediately something was wrong. The contractor wasn't there, but Luca was. He stood in the center of the empty space with his own crew behind him. 6 guys, all armed, all watching me with the kind of hungry intensity that makes men dangerous. For a long moment, nobody moved. We just stared at each other across 50 feet of concrete floor. Then Luca smiled. That same confident, predatory smile I remembered from when he first challenged me. "Dominic, it's been a while." "Not long enough," I replied. "The contractor sends his apologies. He had a scheduling conflict." Luca's smile widened. "I convinced him to let us use this space instead. Figured it was time we talked." "Talked," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You burn my businesses, steal my men, and terrorize my city. What's left to talk about?" "Surrender," Luca said simply. "Acknowledge that your time is over. The city belongs to me now." Bruno's hand moved toward his gun. So did 3 of Luca's guys. The temperature in that warehouse dropped 20 degrees. "Easy," I said, holding up my hand. "Nobody's shooting anybody, not today." I walked forward slowly, hands visible, showing I wasn't armed even though I was, always was. Luca did the same. We met in the middle, 2 kings, 2 visions of the same city, only one throne. You may have soldiers, I said, my voice low and controlled. You may have fear, you may even have territory, but you'll never have loyalty, real loyalty, the kind that comes from respect, not bribes. Respect, Luca laughed. Respect is just fear with better PR. You think your guys stayed loyal all those years because they loved you. They stayed because crossing you meant death. That's not loyalty, that's slavery. And what you're offering is freedom, I shot back. You're buying men like merchandise, paying them to betray everything they swore to protect. That's not a family, that's a fucking corporation. Exactly, Luca said, and he meant it. Welcome to the modern world, Dominic. This life. It's not about honor and tradition anymore. It's about profit, efficiency, expansion. The future belongs to men who understand that. Then the future belongs to men with no soul, I said quietly. Luca's expression hardened. Maybe, but soulless men with power beat honorable men in graves every single time. The silence that followed was louder than gunfire. Because we both knew he was right, in a way. The old ways were dying, had been dying for years. I'd just been too stubborn to admit it. But that didn't mean I was ready to surrender. This city has bled enough, I said. We're destroying everything we both claim to want. The businesses, the peace. The money, it's all burning while we fight over ashes. Then stop fighting, Luca replied. Walk away, retire. Enjoy your money and your house and your family. I'll even guarantee your safety. You have my word. Your word? I looked him dead in the eye. Your word means nothing. You swore loyalty to me 6 years ago. You promised you'd never cross me, and you broke that promise the moment it was convenient. I broke it because I had to grow, because staying loyal to you meant staying small. Luca stepped closer. I'm offering you a way out, take it. Because war ends one of two ways, surrender or death. Choose. I stared at him for a long moment. This kid I'd raised. This soldier I'd promoted. This traitor who'd become a rival powerful enough to split my city in half. War it is then, I said. Luca nodded slowly. I was hoping you'd say that. We both stepped back, returned to our respective sides of the warehouse. The meeting was over. But as I walked toward the exit, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just sealed my own fate. Because Luca was right about one thing, this war would end. One way or another. And survival meant sacrifice. The city split in two. Not metaphorically, actually, literally. If you walked down certain streets, you knew whose territory you were in based on who was watching from the corners. Castellano guys wore black. Morty guys wore dark blue, like gang colors but with better suits. Every street was a battlefield. Every deal was a gamble. Every transaction could be your last. I lost count of how many guys got jumped, beat, and shot. Not killed. We were both smart enough to avoid outright murder, which would bring federal heat we couldn't afford. But hurt, hospitalized, made examples of. My clubs got raided by cops who'd clearly been paid to look the other way for years, but suddenly found their civic duty again. Funny how Luca's places never got raided. Just mine. My suppliers started demanding cash up front. No credit, no trust, because they didn't know if I'd be around next month to make good on debts. Luca's operations, meanwhile, seemed to be thriving. New restaurants opening with his money. Construction projects breaking ground under his protection. He was building an empire in real time while mine crumbled. Every night, I wondered if it would be my last. Not because I thought Luca would kill me. He was too smart for that. But because the stress, the paranoia, the constant weight of defending what I'd built, it was eating me alive from the inside. I started sleeping with a gun under my pillow. Started checking my car for bombs every morning. Started tasting my food before eating it because I'd seen too many bosses taken out by poison to trust anyone. Sophia, my wife, begged me to stop, to walk away, to take Luca's offer and retire while I still could. Dominic, please, she said one night, tears in her eyes. This isn't worth dying for. It's everything I've built, I told her. Everything I am, I can't just give that away. You're not giving it away. You're choosing your life over your pride. In this world, they're the same thing. She didn't understand, couldn't understand, because she wasn't built for this life. She'd married into it, accepted it, but she'd never truly been part of it. The war wasn't just about territory or money or power. It was about survival, about proving that the old ways still mattered, that loyalty and tradition and respect weren't just words we used to justify violence. But every day I felt that belief slipping, because the evidence was overwhelming. Luca was winning. Not through honor or tradition, through efficiency, ruthlessness, and a willingness to break every rule I'd ever believed in. And the worst part, the city was better for it. Crime was actually down in Morty territory. Civilians felt safer. Businesses were thriving. Because Luca understood something I'd been too stubborn to see. The modern world didn't want old-school mafia protection rackets. It wanted order, stability, the illusion of safety. And Luca was selling that illusion better than I ever could. I had faced enemies before. Russians who wanted to move into our territory. Colombians who thought they could muscle in on our drug trade. Even other Italian families who challenged the Castellano name. I'd beaten them all, through violence, strategy, political maneuvering, whatever it took. But Luca was different. He wasn't just a rival trying to take my territory. He was a mirror, a reflection of my own ambition when I was his age. The same hunger, the same refusal to accept limits, the same absolute certainty that the world should belong to him. Fighting him was like fighting a younger version of myself, and I was losing. Late at night, alone in my office, I'd pour myself a drink and ask the question I never thought I'd have to ask. Was he right? Was my time really over? Had the world changed so much that men like me, men who believed in loyalty and tradition and the old ways, were obsolete? I didn't have an answer, and that terrified me more than any bullet. Because to defeat Luca, I would have to become something darker, something even I feared. I'd have to abandon every principle I'd built my empire on. I'd have to fight dirty in ways that would make me no better than the monsters we claimed to be better than. I'd have to sacrifice the very things that made me different from Luca. Bruno saw it happening, saw me changing, saw the darkness creeping in. "Boss, you gotta stay true to who you are," he told me one night. "The moment you become like him, we've already lost." "Then we've already lost," I said bitterly, "because playing by my rules while he breaks everyone, that's suicide." "Maybe," Bruno admitted, "but at least you'll die as Dominic Castellano, not as some cheap copy of Luca Moretti." He had a point, but honor doesn't win wars, violence does. And I was running out of time to choose between my soul and my survival. This was the war that tore my empire apart. 6 months of hell that turned my city into a battlefield and my family into a ghost of what it once was. But the real battle was yet to come. Because one night, one bloody, terrible night, I would face Luca directly, not in a warehouse with crews watching, not with words and posturing, but in the kind of confrontation where only one of us would walk away. The night everything changed. The night I discovered that sometimes the greatest enemy isn't the man trying to take your throne. It's the choice you make to keep it. Stay with Vox Narration, because the family story continues. And trust me, you haven't seen anything yet.